Hi everybody, this is Sachinarena. Welcome to our CSN English Club. This video is all about clause and sentence. In this video, we are going to learn the definition of clause and the definition of sentence and the difference between clause and sentence and the kinds of clauses which are main clause and subordinate clause, what is main clause and what is subordinate clause, and how can we find out the main clause and subordinate clause in a sentence. These are all the things we are going to learn in this video. In the beginning video, we have learned what is a sentence, the definition of the sentence. What is a sentence? A sentence is a group of words that contains a subject and a predicate and makes complete sense by itself is called a sentence. You have to underline some of the words here. It is a group of words. The sentence is a group of words and it should have a subject and predicate. You know what is subject? We are talking about is called subject. In that sentence, who is talking about, that is called subject. What is said about the subject is that is called predicate. In the predicate part, the verb part is the most important. So most probably, not most probably, definitely in a sentence there should be a subject and there should be a predicate. In that predicate there is a verb and makes complete sense. This is the most important part. That sentence should give the complete sense. Complete sense means the complete idea. Okay, that is called a sentence. So these are the features of the sentence. It is a group of words, it has subject and a predicate, and it gives a complete sense. Here is the example: the men were constructing a dam. Here the subject is men, the predicate is were constructing a dam. In this predicate part, the verb part is were constructing, okay, which gives the complete idea. There is a full stop in the end. Okay, we all know about the sentence. Now what is a clause? By reading the definition of this clause, you are going to learn the difference between clause and sentence. Just observe here: a group of words. A clause is also group of words. Like a sentence, a clause is also a group of words that contains a subject and a predicate. A sentence also contains subject and predicate. These are two similarities. A group of words, that is a similarity between clause and sentence. Clause also contains subject and predicate. This is also another similarity. The difference is the clause is a part of a sentence. Okay, clause is a part of a sentence. Of course, it is a group of words. Of course, it contains a subject and a predicate, but it is the part of a sentence. Sometimes it may give the complete sense and it may not give the complete sense. Unlike a sentence, what is a sentence? Sentence always gives the complete sense, but here clause sometimes gives the complete sense, sometimes gives the incomplete sense. That's the main difference between clause and uh, sentence. Now let's see one example. The men were constructing a dam which produces electricity. In this total sentence there are two clauses. The men were constructing a dam which produce electricity. Okay. In this total sentence there are two clauses. According to the definition, just observe here, a clause is a part of a sentence. So the men were constructing a dam, that is a clause. It is a part of the total sentence. Next, which produce electricity, that is also a clause. It is a part of the sentence. Next, what have we known about clause? Another thing is, it may give the complete sense, it may not give the complete sense. So observe here, in the first clause the men were constructing a dam, which gives the complete sense. Understood? Which produce electricity, this part doesn't give the complete sense. Okay, the men were constructing a dam, that is a clause which gives the complete sense. Here is also a clause, another clause which produce electricity. It doesn't give the complete sense. Okay. Now let us try to know the difference between sentence and clause. A sentence gives the complete sense, a clause may give the complete sense or may not give the complete sense. If you observe the following three examples, you can easily understand the difference between sentence and clause. In the first one, Venu is preparing for railway examination. So no doubt it is a sentence. Of course it is also a clause. Sometimes a sentence may have one clause, a sentence may have more than one clause. In the first sentence which has only one clause. So the first one is sentence come clause. Venu is fat and Hari is thin. Here in this sentence there are two clauses. Understood? In the third one, Venu, who is my best friend, is very fat. In this sentence also two clauses are there. What are they? Venu is very fat. That is one clause. Who is my friend? That is another clause. Here in the third sentence, Venu is very fat. That gives the complete sense. Who is my friend? That doesn't give the complete sense. In the second sentence, Venu is fat and Hari is thin. Both clauses are giving the complete sense. Next one. A sentence has subject and predicate. A clause also has subject and predicate. You know this similarity. A sentence may have one clause or more than one clause. A clause is a part of the sentence. Sometimes see the second and third sentence. These two sentences have two clauses each. Okay, sometimes more than three clauses also there in the sentence. Sometimes there is only one clause in the sentence. Okay, a clause is always a part of the sentence. Hope you understood the difference between clause and sentence. Now we are getting into the next topic, that is the kinds of clauses. The most important aspect is the kinds of clauses. There are two kinds of clauses, subordinate clause and main clause. First you have to observe this sentence. The cat will scratch you if you pull its tail. Okay, the cat will scratch you if you pull its tail. Here how many clauses are there? I already told you a sentence may have more than one clause. Here two clauses are there. The cat will scratch you, that is one clause. If you pull its tail, that is another clause. Okay. What is this clause named as? What is this clause named as? This clause, the cat will scratch you. This is called the cat will scratch you. This clause is named as main clause. If you pull its tail, this clause is named as subordinate clause. Why? What is main clause? What is subordinate clause? You have to understand the difference between main clause and subordinate clause. You have to pay special interest on this topic, because you have to, if you understand this topic, you may clear about the further topics. You can easily understand the further topics. Adverbial clause, noun clause, adjective clause. These are all the important topics. So pay special interest on this topic. Okay, main clause. What is main clause? A main clause always gives the complete sense. If you observe this part, what is the cat will scratch you? The cat will scratch you, which gives the complete sense. Okay, subordinate clause means that clause doesn't give the complete sense. If you pull its tail, that doesn't give the complete sense. Understood? If you pull its tail, doesn't give the complete sense means it needs some more information. It needs some more information. If you pull its tail, you have to continue the sentence. You need some more information. So this part doesn't give the complete sense. But here in the first part, it doesn't give the complete. It gives the complete sense. Suppose if you cut here, the first part doesn't depend on this second part. So the first part is named as independent clause or principal clause. Independent clause means it doesn't depend on the other clause. It can stand alone. Okay. But subordinate clause is named as dependent clause. Why? Because this subordinate clause depends on main clause. Without main clause, it doesn't get the complete meaning. So definitely the subordinate clause must depend on the main clause. So this is dependent clause, but a main clause need not depend on the subordinate clause. So this is independent clause. Understood? What we have known about main clause and subordinate clause, those are given in the table format. You observe this table and you can understand the difference between main clause and subordinate clause. A main clause gives the complete sense by itself. A subordinate clause doesn't give the complete sense by itself. These two items are discussed in the previous slide. A main clause can stand alone. A main clause can stand alone, so it is named as independent clause. A subordinate clause cannot stand alone, because so it is named as dependent clause. Okay, it is named as principal clause also. What is named as principal clause? Main clause. So the other names of main clause are independent clause or principal clause. These are the other two names. Other name of subordinate clause is dependent clause. Why? Because it is dependent for its meaning on the main clause. If you observe the following example, you can understand these differences between main clause and subordinate clause. Though he worked hard, he could not succeed. In this sentence, two clauses are there. Though he worked hard is one clause, he could not succeed is another clause. Though he worked hard, it is not giving the complete sense. So it is named as subordinate clause. He could not succeed, it gives the complete sense. So this clause is named as main clause. Now I am going to give you some examples, some sentences. Try to identify the subordinate clause and main clause in that sentence. First one, he who breaks the law will be punished. He who breaks the law will be punished. In this sentence, two clauses are there. The first clause is he will be punished. He will be punished. That is one clause. Who breaks the law? This is another clause. Which clause is subordinate clause? Which clause is main clause? The subordinate clause doesn't give the complete sense. You have to remember that. Who breaks the law? This clause doesn't give the complete sense. So this is subordinate clause. He will be punished. This is main clause. Next one. As soon as the thief saw the policeman, he ran away. As soon as the thief saw the policeman, he ran away. Here, as soon as the thief saw the policeman, that is one clause. He ran away, that is another clause. Subordinate clause is as soon as the thief saw the policeman. That doesn't give the complete sense. It needs some more information. That is he ran away. This is main clause. Okay. Next one. The sum was so hard that I could not understand to do it. The sum was so hard that I could not do it. The sum was so hard. This is one clause. That I could not do it. This is another clause. That I could not do it. This is subordinate clause. The sum was so hard. This is main clause. The master punished the boy who neglected his work. Who neglected his work? This is subordinate clause, because it doesn't give the complete sense. The master punished the boy. This is main clause, because it gives the complete sense. I found the book where you had placed it. I found the book. This part gives the complete sense. So this is main clause. Where you had the placed it. This is subordinate clause. As it was a holiday, he stayed indoors. As it was a hot day, as it was a hot day, he stayed indoors. This is subordinate clause. This is main clause. He won the election because his opponents were divided. He won the election. This gives the complete sense. So this is main clause, because his opponents were divided. This is subordinate clause. Though I saw it, I doubted it. Though I saw it, this is subordinate clause, because it doesn't give the complete sense. I doubted it, which gives the complete sense. So this is main clause.